And you can make anything.
You can make anything. You can make it. You can make a turkey at Thanksgiving with your hand, and then you decorate with the feathers. First of all, we are so delighted to have Dr. Rich Melheim with us. And I think you're going to find out that this is a man of, how would we describe it? And in fact, I think even read something about this. You have been described as the Leonardo da Vinci, or a modern day Leonardo da Vinci. Am I right in reading that somewhere?
Yeah, Dr. Jinhan Un at mscbrain.com in Korea gave me the test that he gives to the entire South Korean army and all the employees of LG and Samsung and all the big companies in Korea. And I scored in an unusual way in the area of scientific imagination, so much so that I took the test in LA, but he flew me to Korea, and we ended up spending 21 days together, heading to Dubai and heading to Harvard and Johns Hopkins and Washington, D.C. and New York and Minnesota and Hollywood, all because I scored in an area that the score is normally high at 26. I scored at 40, and he'd never seen that before. And so he wanted to get to know me. We ended up doing some conferences together on the brain and creativity.
Fascinating. So we are honored to have a modern day Leonardo da Vinci here with us on the Grace Unfiltered Podcast. And we really appreciate your time. I thought what I would do is start by just reading some of this bio, and then we could talk about it after that. In addition to what I just said, a futurist, neuroeducator, author, entrepreneur, which I want to hear more about that sometime. Student of NFTs, which would be non-fungible token, like Bitcoin would be an example of that, would it not?
Bitcoin would be a currency in that area. I'm more interested in unique art and music and poetry and film that can be help young people, especially monetize their gifts and talents, set their own price, and include smart contracts where they donate to their favorite charities in perpetuity when their art is sold 100 years from now.
Interesting. Very interesting. So is that something? So you're working on that side of it? Is what I can conclude then. Okay.
I produced a documentary called The NFT Revolution in 2021 during COVID. And I was just so fed up with the goofy apes selling for $10,000 and things that just were worthless. So I began to wonder, what could we do to help young artists, musicians, theater people, anybody who has a gift or a talent to monetize their own and set their own price and create charity out of their work in long term. And that's a documentary. I ended up interviewing Oscar and Emmy and Grammy and Tony winners and mothers dying of cancer and all kinds of people to talk to them about the meaning of their life and the meaning of their arts.
Mm-hmm. And the blockchain is the vehicle in which to purchase. Is that?
Yeah.
The way, yeah. Metaverses, semiotician. And I heard that you consider yourself a semiotician.
Well, my doctorate's in a branch of linguistic philosophy called semiotics, and it studies symbols and signs and meaning. So my dissertation began with the title, The Meaning of Meaning in a Post-Gutenberg Neo-Google World. I didn't end with that title, but that was the beginning title of my doctorate. How do you make meaning today in this crazy time where things are going click, 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 and students have a attention span of less than a goldfish?
It is going fast. I remember it was like every 50 years, technology doubled, and now I don't know what it is, but it seems like it's not days, but like hours. It's going so fast.
With AI, general intelligence, and eventually super intelligence, you will see the equivalent of a Nobel Prize in medicine and literature, and you'll see that every 10 seconds.
Wow. Mind-boggling. It truly is. So the next on the list, cartoonist, comedian. So you're an illustrator when you say cartoonist, or you write and draw?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaker, publisher, playwright, songwriter, family counselor, business systems consultant, and here's one I'm not familiar with, amateur complexity theorist. Any comment on that, or should I just keep reading?
Well, the whole thing about the forest for the trees, some people see the forest, some people see the trees. When you go down into the micro of subatomic particles and quanta, and when you stretch out to the macro of galaxies and nebula and black holes, you start seeing patterns emerge and fractals emerge and Fibonacci sequences where things start looking like each other, whether they're tiny, tiny, tiny or huge, huge, huge. And if you apply the complexity to human relationships, to business systems, to art, to anything, you can start finding patterns and similarities from the tiniest to the largest, and maybe even learn some things. Complexity has some simplicity built in, and simplicity always has complexity built in.
Well, thank you for that explanation. I think I understand what you're saying. The next thing is log cabin builder. And you don't live in a log cabin either, do you? But it is a log cabin. Well,
no, I don't live here.
That's right. You mentioned you're on the lake.
My getaway retreat center.
That's right. Yeah. So last time I talked to you, it was a different house. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so you have built the log cabin, and that one that you live in. Preschool designer, a student of the human brain, and it says you have taught in 1,000 cities on 5 continents.
Not Antarctica, so I'm waiting for an invitation.
To Antarctica, is that what you said?
Haven't done Antarctica yet.
That's one left, huh? See, that's where the penguins are, right?
There's some there, that's true.
Yeah. It says here that you have written and produced 39 books, illustrated 82 children's stories, produced 24 music albums, created and directed 7 musical comedy stage plays, written 400 songs. That's a lot. And thousands of curriculum resources and skits. In 2000, I think you mentioned one of these that I'm about to read here. In 2020, he executive produced multiple Facebook Live concert events with winners of 42 Grammy Awards. The latest projects include an interview series called Beyond the Metaverse, a documentary called NFT Revolution Movie, and an animated feature film, Baby Silkworm and an Alien Invasion. To name a few. Yeah. Lots going on in the life of Dr. Rich. As far as musical stage plays produced. There's a list here. Satellite TV we've been involved in. I mentioned the live Facebook concerts. Videos produced, awards, and this was interesting. Ben Franklin Humor Award. That was a Publishers Marketing Association in '94. And I mean, just even with the time that we've been here together, it's evident that you're a funny guy, and it makes sense that you are,
or at least strange,
or at least strange. Have you ever done stand-up, by the way?
Yes, I have. So for 30 years, I started a Christian education publishing company, not intentionally, but it fell into, the creation of it fell into my lap when I was totally broke once, and started doing comedy sketches and skits for the Ten Commandments, Lord's Prayer, Apostles' Creed, baptism, communion, all kinds of different things that you'd want to do. And then I went on the road and I spoke in 50 to 75 cities for the bulk of 30 years. And every night I would end up doing comedy with parents and kids together. So, yes, I've done a lot of stand-up.
Yeah, they say that's one of the hardest things to do. Would you agree with that statement?
Well, if you are fast on your feet and you notice little things and love the concept of improv, where you take two things that normally don't go together and put them together. By the way, that's the basis of creativity. Stephen Johnson writes in the book Where Good Ideas Come From that most creativity happens when you take two things that normally aren't in the same space and you put them together. It's called the adjacent possible. You got your chocolate on my peanut butter. You got your, Thai food on my Brazilian food. A new taste sensation. You got your polymer on my new pickleball racket. Taking things that normally aren't in the same space and putting them together. The adjacent possible is really the basis of most creativity, most innovation. And that's what stand-up is, and that's what improv is. Amy Poehler has the best series on improv you'll ever hear. If you want to Google Amy Poehler improv, it's like a 7-course series. Saw it on an airplane recently coming back from Dubai. But I think everybody should be trained in improv, whether you're a preacher, a teacher, a business leader, or a retired motorcycle mechanic, or the head of your nursing home. It's just so cool to put things together and see how they mix and see what happens. And much comedy comes out of that as well, with little surprises that happen when you run into things that maybe you haven't noticed before and that you see. I'm kind of addicted to old Seinfeld clips. I walk every morning to see the sunrise, and I have a Nordic track. I try to do 10 miles every day since my heart incident. And I make sure that every day I get some clean comedy just to see what other people think. And some of the classics, like the goofy old Seinfeld stuff, it still makes me laugh to this day.
So in addition to being a television guest and with all those appearances that we just mentioned, you've done a lot of speaking as a keynote speaker for both business and education. And you speak on various topics, some of which we've already talked about. I like some of these titles. That's what caught my attention. Teaching the Way the Brain Learns Best, which we are going to talk about, things like that in a little bit. Designing with the Young Mind in Mind. Love these titles. Anything you want to say about those two or one of those two before we move on?
Yeah, I've always been interested in the neurology of education, especially the thought that one might be able to short circuit of learning disabilities like dyslexia, ADD, ADHD. I was a mildly dyslexic child, but they didn't diagnose things like that back then. I didn't find out I was dyslexic until I was in my 50s, and I was at Tufts University with Marianne Wolf, who does brain scans on dyslexic kids and works on dyslexic preschools. And she's the one who helped me realize my challenge that I had. So I've always been interested. I always had to use music and songs and dance and movement and art and cartoons to remember anything. And even into my doctoral studies, if there's all kinds of obnoxious pictures in my notes of my professors saying things. So I've always been interested in how does that little child learn the best and the fastest? Are there ways to pour accelerant on the learning fire? And especially the kid who gets bored fast. And it came to my attention that sitting at a desk is not the way to learn anything new. So we designed a preschool project, and we tested it in Minnesota, in Ethiopia, in India, 3 summers in South Carolina, right up until COVID, where everything was built around music. We didn't teach anything new without music and motion and art and emotion. And it's a pretty amazing deal when you use the arts at the core of learning instead of the side. You have more attention, you have more retention, you have more creativity, curiosity, competence, confidence, collaboration. And yet our schools, even though we're in an era of brain scan technology and we can watch a learning brain as you sing and dance and move versus just listening to a lecture, we have a window into the learning brain with brain scans, with fMRIs and PET scans. One measures the electrical impulses in the brain. Where's the activity happening? What parts of the brain are talking to what parts of the brain? And the other measures the oxygen level. Where is the brain demanding oxygen, which means attention, right? Mm-hmm. In the last 10 years, we've learned more about how the human brain learns than we have in the last 5,000 years. And yet, most of our schools aren't applying this learning. And within a very short time, our brick and mortar schools are going away. Sitting in a desk in a school is going away in our lifetime. And by 2030, 2035, most kids who have money are not going to school anymore. They're going to learn what they want, when they want, where they want, with whom they want, why. They will put on the goggles and go into a holodeck. And if they're going to learn their French, they'll transport to the base of the Eiffel Tower, and you'll have a learning cohort. And your assignment will be like a little game quest. You have to get to the Louvre. You have to get to the Rodin Museum. You have to buy a baguette on this corner. We got to get back to Notre Dame by lunchtime. We have to do this and this and this and meet at the Eiffel Tower at the end of the day. Here's 300 francs. You and your team go. And by the way, no one will be speaking English to you all day. That's how you're going to learn your French. To learn the circulatory system, you will shrink down into a nanobot magic school bus and speed through the entire human body, blasting away any viruses or bacteria or pre-cancer cells with a light blaster and a sonic blaster and a water blaster. To learn astrophysics, you will transport out to the edge of the Hubble and the Webb telescopes. You will be living as far as your imagination can go. That's where your mind will stretch, and you'll be collaboratively learning with kids from all over the world on learning quests and games. Learning will look like games for anybody with money. Unfortunately, those who don't have money are going to be sitting in a Henry Ford assembly line, a brick and mortar school that leaves them no on-ramp to the future of education, exploration, and business for that matter. So we have a nonprofit I can talk about toward the end of the day. Our goal is for every kid who can afford this world, we will provide equipment and programming and high-speed access to kids who can't with our Rich Learning International nonprofit. And the younger you start, the better. The little brain is operating at about 250,000 new brain cells a minute. And by the time puberty kicks in, it gets to be about half that efficient. So the earlier you start anything when it comes to loving, learning, curiosity, collaboration, creativity, the earlier you start anything, you will be building a multi-layer neural highway in that child for the rest of their life. And we'll get into this in a minute, but music builds a multi-layer neural highway, multi-lane. Do you want 12 lanes open on the interstate during rush hour or 4? If you start early enough with music and arts and dance and learning quests, you'll build 12 lanes for information transfer, for spatial intelligence. And these lanes will help them all the way into aging. They'll have more ability, even in whereas a lot of people go into dementia. If you build this early, you'll even prevent much of dementia and Alzheimer's. So I'm passionate and excited about what we can do now that we know how the brain learns best. And it really tells us that we need to train and pay teachers at a higher level to not be the I talk, you listen, sit still while I instill, but to train teachers to be the curators of the imagination and curators of the mind, and the people who ask great questions, give the kids the tools and let them work together and create their own learning and lessons together. And that's part of what is going to be that we're calling rich learning, handing the quality school over to the imagination of kids learning, guided by a curator, not a standard sit in a desk while I talk classroom teacher.
Yeah, just listening to you, it makes a lot of sense, because I think of one of the first things that I remember that just really gripped and inspired me, of all things, was finger painting. I remember these large easels.
Yeah.
This big white blank sheet of paper. And then just that whole idea of putting your hands in paint, which was tactile. And it just seemed like the sky was the limit just with that. But I remember that was my first thing that really got my mind firing. And you're talking Metaverse and some really, really sophisticated virtual ways of learning, but it's still through art and through music. But isn't that interesting? At least I think so. That was one of my first experiences. Of course, that was kindergarten, which is,
and you can make anything.
You can make anything. You can make it. You can make a turkey at Thanksgiving with your hand, and then you decorate with the feathers, each finger that you put on there. But yeah, so it makes a lot of sense, and there's two different models of learning that you see: the Montessori style and the Waldorf style, right?
And both of them were way ahead of their time when it comes to the neurology of learning. Both of them intuitively taught the way the brain learned best and attached to the creativity and curiosity of the child. Bill Glasser wrote one of the most important education books of the 20th century. It was called The Quality School. And he said, in the quality school, everyone is the teacher. In the quality school, everyone is the teacher. He only had 3 criteria in the quality school. Number 1, on graduation day, every student can speak intelligently about the subjects they've studied. Number 2, every student can write intelligently about the subjects they've studied. And number 3, every student can teach the subjects they've studied. How is that possible unless they've been doing it all along, guided by a curator, not just a teacher where I talk, you listen? AI is doing in 10 minutes what a classroom teacher has been trying to do in 50 minutes. And 50 minutes really means, 15 minutes if you're lucky, and 35 minutes of classroom management. But if you're teaching the way the brain learns and then exciting that child and asking great research questions, all the best doctorate programs in the country do research questions and case studies where they look at something that's actually going on and let the people work on that together. And the AI virtual tutor will be able to very quickly realize what your attitude and what your aptitude is. We have a patent pending right now putting together motion sensor, emotion sensor, and language sensor in a unique way. So the AI virtual tutor will know you, will call you by name, will give you just enough repeat and review to hardwire whatever the new concept was last time, and just enough challenge to get your curiosity center going. And instead of telling you answers, the future of AI in education is not an AI that tells you the answers. Siri, how many miles is it to Minneapolis? Siri, how do you spell onomatopoeia? Siri, what's 49 times 13? It's not going to give you the answers. The best future AI will ask a lot of questions. Well,
sorry, I don't understand.
By the way, my Siri just
Alexa
said,
or Siri?
Sorry, I don't understand. But imagine this little guy is your virtual tutor and he knows you by name. This was designed by my son, Joseph Melheim.
Oh, that's neat.
Who has a degree in digital marketing and animation. And this guy's name is Stan. He looks a little bit like Stan Lee, the comic guy.
Marvel. Okay.
But he does sign language. And everything he teaches includes movement and motion recognition. Anyway, the virtual tutor will ask you questions. And how do you spell onomatopoeia? Well, what's the first sound? So it must be an A, right? Well, it maybe is. Let's see if it's an A. Ding, 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 ding. Hey, you lose 3 points. What else could it be? The vowels fly around. Well, the word father has a sound like in it. Is that an A? Ding, oh, ding, ding. No. The word, anyway. The future will be an AI that doesn't fill in the blanks and write your papers, but helps you think and in a critical, thoughtful, creative way, and then puts you together with other kids who are together turning into these learning quest cohorts. Again, the AI that gives you the answers, that's not an AI we need. An AI that helps lead you with what you know toward new hints and new discoveries, that's going to be the future of the teacher. And you'll learn more in 10 minutes than you will in 50 minutes. You'll learn more in 6 weeks than you will in 6 months.
That's fascinating. And that's what you're working on with your patents? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So that you'll lead, it won't lead you, but you'll lead it, so to speak, meaning the AI.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat.
Imagine if you had a goofy alien virtual tutor.
Yeah.
Going with you into, fundamental math followed by calculus and algebra and all of that is just, it's going to be a game and it's going to be fun.
Yeah. And is that part of rich learning then?
Yeah.
All of that. So, and I'm just curious. So is your son part of that? When you say we, you're talking about you, Rich Learning.
If you go to richlearning.com, we have built two things. One, an outstanding for-profit staff to build the IP and the cartoon shows and the cartoon characters and the parent dashboard so the parents can be part of all of this, and the motion emotion sensor work. And then we built a nonprofit to be able to raise funds to give it away to kids who can't afford it, and give the equipment and give the high-speed internet access as well. The for-profit, our CTO is in Singapore, and he's just a brilliant techie. He's built multiple businesses and had 100 million downloads on apps in the early day of Facebook. Our our finance guy is in London, and he's built and sold 3 chemical materials companies and been the head of the most respected education company franchise in the Middle East. He did an IPO and brought his one company from a $450 million valuation to a $2 billion IPO. Our COO is between Mumbai, Dubai, and Calgary, and he's been an executive on 3 continents for 35 years for multiple businesses. And then we just brought on the president of Mythical Games, and Aaron has built, he helped Facebook become Meta and built games for them, and he's absolutely brilliant. So we've got the techies and the gamies and the business and the marketing, and then there's crazy me on the for-profit side. And we're moving right into our funding rounds right now as we speak. We're talking to people in the UK and in Dubai and in Asia. And then our nonprofit, the co-chair who founded it with me, Dr. William C. Nelson, built the largest private scholarship fund in American history, Scholarship America. He was a university president when a neighbor asked him to help him raise dollars for scholars. That's what the nonprofit was called. They were giving away about $6 million a year by knocking on doors and asking for dollars. And Bill built the systems for about 5,000 American corporations to join. And today, Scholarship America gives away about $250 million a year. They've given away $5.4 billion last time I checked. So we have the most amazing leader for the nonprofit. You'd never find him if you were looking for him, and you'd never get him if you found him. To me, that's why it's a God thing, because these people, I could never have hoped to snag them in on this idea of creating the best education in the world for kids who can't afford it. But here they are, and we're just getting ready to launch our for-profit fundraising, and we're just getting ready with a project called Developing Beautiful Minds to launch our nonprofit, so that the kids who can't afford it,
did you see them scrolling?
Yeah.
And so it really sounds like you have a dream team. It really.
We got a dream team.
Really
Why don't you press the button on that black thing right there, and you can see.
Yeah, we'll just listen to that a little bit.
What we're building, and turn the sound up.
Thank you, Derek.
So I'm Dr. Bill Nelson, the chair of the board of Rich Learning International. I'm excited about what's happening with Rich Learning International and our support for Rich Learning. The whole idea of it is to develop beautiful minds. Basically, it's support this wonderful, new, innovative approach to learning, using the power of learning through music and theater and dance, so that youth of all kinds of ages can, first of all, learn much better and be excited about learning, but also then to retain what they have learned so much better as well. Now, we need, though, to help lots of youth and lots of families who probably aren't going to be able to afford the special equipment and all the learning processes that come with this new and exciting and innovative way of learning. So you have a chance to contribute and to provide some resources for us to in turn use those to help those families, and that in turn will help all those youth to learn and to retain that exciting learning.
Anyway, that's Dr. Bill. He's just an amazing, amazing gentleman. I was with him last night, and I'll be with him again tomorrow as we get the project going. If you want to hop over to richlearning.com, there's also a fun little 1-minute video that shows the first cartoons we're designing. Maybe you can find that on the front page of richlearning.com.
And while he does that, I want to give an example of what you just said in terms of sparking that interest for learning at a young age, as early as possible, and that's something that can be retained into old age. Did you happen to see that Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga special?
Yes.
That blew me away.
So here's someone who has pretty much lost it, but he's on stage. How old was he at that concert? 90-something?
Something like that.
He's on stage and he's instantly a star again.
It was. And so it just clicked.
What music does to the brain is it builds that multi-layer neural highway to multiple parts of the brain and the body, okay? Dr. Annie Patel at the Neuroscience Institute wrote a book called Music, Language, and the Brain, and he uses the phrase OPERA. This is what music does, is opera. O stands for overlap. Music hits overlapping parts of the brain. The rhythm touches the brain in one place. The pitch touches the brain in another place. The volume hits the brain in another place. The words and any rhyming hits the brain in another place, and it connects to the memory centers, okay? And all of these areas, even the color of the sound, the timbre of the sound, all of these unrelated areas hook together and hardwire into this mesh. The left brain talks to the right brain, the linguistic and phonic centers up above the left ear, talk to the prefrontal cortex trying to figure all this out, talk to the emotional center of the brain. Music does this overlapping things, but it does it with OPERA. P is precision. Your brain is doing precise algorithmic measurements, really precise pitch, precise speed, precise everything. And that precision hones the brain. And it doesn't seem like work because music dumps in dopamine and serotonin. There's about 6 different chemicals that go in the brain when you're having music. Steven Pinker, who's an amazing writer on the brain, says music is an audio cocktail of designer drugs that you ingest through your ear. Music, the reason, even though it's such hard work, your brain doesn't find it like work because it's got all of these pleasure drugs that go with the overlap precision. Music hits the OPE, emotional center of the brain. Why is it that a song can make you smile just by hearing it? Here's a little song I wrote. You can sing it note for note. Don't worry. It just makes you smile.
Yeah, it does.
Why is it that a song can make you weep? I can't hear the music from Les Mis without weeping, even when there's no lyrics. Da 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 da. You can watch videos online of mothers singing to their brand new babies sad songs, and the babies start tearing up with these sad love songs. It can just make you weep. Music gets to the emotional center of the brain like no talking can do. Even the greatest storytellers, if they add music, that's much more powerful. OPE. And it's important to get the emotional center of the brain so the brain pays attention. We're constantly bombarded by all kinds of input all day long. Some say we're only consciously aware of about 1/10,000th of all the input that's coming to us at any given moment. For instance, can you feel the shirt on your shoulders?
Yes.
You can, you always could, but it wasn't important enough, so the brain didn't focus on it. Can you feel your socks in your feet? You can once you focus on it, but the brain said don't listen to that. Can you see that what's on your far left in your peripheral vision and your far right? Now that I mention it, yes, you can. Guess what? You always could, but the brain wasn't focused on that. Some say if we were consciously aware of 3/10,000ths, we'd probably go mad. It's too much information, right? Mm-hmm. So the brain wants to focus. It wants to pay attention to the things that matter. Pay attention. Is attention a currency? Yes, it is. It's our only non-renewable. Time and attention is the only non-renewable currency we have. You can always make more money. You will never make more time and attention. Why should I pay attention to this lesson? It doesn't relate to me at all. What music does is it opens the kid before it opens the book. It opens the emotional center. And once you open the emotional center, all the gatekeepers wash away and you've got that focus. OPE, overlap, precision, emotion. R stands for repetition. A good song has a chorus that repeats again and again and again. All my exes live in Texas. That's why I spend my time in Tennessee. The chorus goes over and over and over again. And what happens is music, nerve cells are like wires. And every time you repeat something, the electrical wire, the stuff's going down the electrical wire. Every time you repeat, it puts a little fatty tissue called myelin that acts as an insulation on the nerve cells. And just like electrical wires, wires that are insulated better fire more efficiently. Every time you repeat the key learning in a song, the wiring and the firing is growing much more efficient. And that's why one of the reasons you can learn something in a song and 35 years later, somebody starts the song The Flintstones or come and listen to a story about it, and you have it just like that, even though you haven't thought of it for 30, 40, 50 years, right? Music has that Definitely. Repetition, overlap, precision, emotion, repetition, and A for attention. And the result of it is focused attention like you just don't get. Your human ear can possibly hear at a maximum bandwidth of about 10,000 bits per second. Your eyes see at a maximum bandwidth of about 7 billion bits per second. And if you're not just singing the song or listening to the song, but if you're performing the song with your body, and if you're performing in a chorus and you're playing off the people who are around you and listening to them and looking at them and smiling with them and working with them, a picture is not going to be worth 1,000 words. 7 billion versus 10,000. A picture is worth 700,000 words neurologically in your brain. Listening to music is great, but performing it throws accelerant on the learning fire. And that's why at the core of everything we do with Rich Learning is we take the most powerful tool we possibly have in our learning arsenal, songs, and we don't teach anything until we sing the core of whatever it is. So we encourage people. I just was on a call to 1,200 teachers in Kenya and Zambia and Ghana and Nigeria and Tanzania. I'll be there in April with them. And I encourage them to go for the next 6 weeks and create all the content that they want in their lessons, to have the kids write a song about it and then turn the song into a dance, because dance gives you more oxygen, right, which gives you more focus. Dance also gives you more glucose, which is the sugar in the brain that gives you retention, oxygen, attention, glucose, retention. Dance gives you a brain fertilizer, and any movement will do it. The brain fertilizer, it goes by the letters B, D, N, F. I call it best darn nerve fertilizer. Google BDNF. It's actually brain-derived neurotropic factor, but you don't have to know that for the test. And what BDNF does when you're moving while you're learning is it builds more brain cells. It builds more connections between the brain cells, and it builds more receptors on the connections of the brain cells. So what you're doing, it's like you're fertilizing a field, and you're going to get a heck of a better yield if you're moving and you're singing and you're doing it in tandem with other people. So the brain is going to get all wired up, and the learning is going to be connected to muscle memory in the body. And by the way, muscle memory is the most attentive and retentive form of learning you have. And you have an unlimited supply of muscle memory in your body. Your body can be part of the learning tool. The brain meets the body. And when you're performing with other people, you better be watching out. You better be paying attention, or you might bump into them or fall off the stage or something. When the brain meets the body, meets the environment, according to Dr. Andy Patel at the Neuroscience Institute, you have captured the entire mind. The mind isn't just your brain. The mind isn't just the linguistic and phonic centers of over your left ear and your prefrontal cortex. The mind is the entire brain that you can harness with music and motion and emotion, meets the entire body, and your entire body is connected to the brain. Every nerve cell is connected to thousands and tens of thousands, some hundreds of thousands of other nerve cells when you're moving your body. You have memories in your feet, by the way. You have memories in your heart. You have about a third as many neurons as your gut as you do in your brain. And the gut sends more information to the brain than the brain ever sends to the gut. Do you know that?
No, I did not know
By the
that.
way, your gut is influenced by your gut bacteria, and that's why I have yogurt and almonds and blueberries every morning when I walk out to see the sunrise.
And hydration.
You have about 30 trillion body cells, but you might have 40 trillion bacteria cells. Who's hosting who here, right? Yeah. So you got to be thinking about that whole kid. You got to be thinking about what they're eating. How much sleep are they getting? Are they getting the stimuli? Are they creating their own lessons and not just taking in what you're going to do? So I've got teachers who in Africa now who are going to spend the next few weeks figuring out how to get the kids creating their own lessons. And then after 6 weeks of learning, a 7th week of rehearsal and a show for the community. This is the model I really love. 6 weeks of active learning where the kids are creating their own experiments and songs and dances and art around the project. And then they show it to the community before they move on to the next thing.
So this is
you will see kids learn more in 7 weeks than they do than in 6 months if you make that quality school where they are looking into teaching themselves and learning the stuff as they get ready to teach it.
Now, and this is at the core of rich learning through art and music so that it will sustain them their entire life. And this was tested in Ethiopia.
Yep.
And you're taking it everywhere, basically, with the idea of taking it everywhere.
We started in Minnesota, in my own little suburb of Stillwater. We're right on the river with Wisconsin. And I decided, I worked on the theory. I took a year off to study the theory of early learning and the neurology of early learning, made friends at Johns Hopkins, made friends at Harvard, made friends at Tufts, made friends at the Neuroscience Institute, made friends at Yosei University in South Korea. It's one of the 3 Ivy Leagues of Korea. I hired 38 musicians. We wrote 500 preschool songs, 30 math songs, 30 science songs, 30 Mandarin songs, 30 Spanish songs, 30 health songs, 30 virtue songs, a song about love and joy and peace and patience and goodness and kindness and gentleness and self-control. And then it was time to test it. So I took the summer off and I became a preschool teacher. I lost 15 pounds that summer dancing and jumping and singing and rolling on the floor with the kids. And then we did a show.
So it's a workout program in addition to a learning model.
That's right. We did a show for the parents. They couldn't believe it. We took a year to consolidate our research and our learning. And then we went to Chennai, India, the Tamil area of India on the west coast that used to be called Madras. I brought in teachers from 11 cities, gave them 2 weeks of training, and then 75 kids showed up. And we spent 7 weeks singing and dancing and jumping. I lost another 10 pounds in India. If I do this 5 more times, I'm going to be Gandhi. And then we cleaned it up. We took the research. We did more work. And then we were invited to Ethiopia. South of Addis Ababa in the Rift Valley, there's a town that claims they invented reggae. And this town is called Shashamene. The science minister, who's now the prime minister.
Says she's familiar with that.
Yeah, the science minister was one of our hosts there, took all our teachers to eat, and now he's the prime minister. But this time we didn't hire teachers from 11 cities. This time we interviewed 80 musicians, artists, dancers, and theater people. And we thought, let's not take the teacher who already has a standard framework in their mind what classroom is. Sit still, don't move, don't be loud, don't run, don't play. If you're a neurologist, you'd say, run, 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 play, 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 play. Now hydrate. Now let's talk about this and make up a song, right? But it was night and day difference when we brought in music. We ended up interviewing 80. I brought some of my best American teachers, some of my best Indian teachers. We interviewed 80 young adults in Ethiopia, and I let my teachers choose the 20 that they would work with. And we did that whole 7-week thing again. And it was just outstanding and amazing. In India, we had to teach in Hindi, English, Hindi, and Tamil. In Ethiopia, we had to teach in English, Amharic, and Oromo. But everybody, by the time it was over, could sing the songs in English and Amharic and Oromo. And they were weeping when we left. They just were weeping when we left. I was speaking in South Carolina, and a tall philanthropist, skinny guy who started Longhorn Steakhouse, Bill Dukes, came up to me and said, Rich, I got third world conditions right down Highway 95. Why don't you do South Carolina next summer? We ended up spending 3 summers in South Carolina, right up until COVID. And the reality was we had kids up to the 8th grade who couldn't read and write and spell. And their parents said, could my kid come and help out? Could my kid come and be part of it? In the summers in South Carolina, out on Highway 95, which they call the corridor of shame sometimes, everything just dried up when the highway went in. All these little towns, so much unemployment, so much poverty. In the summer, the kids don't necessarily get to eat. In the school year, they're all eating a couple times a day. So we provided, we got donations and help from the Lutheran Synod provided stuff for our teachers. The Baptists provided housing for our teachers. The African Episcopal Methodists provided a place for us to do our stuff. The mayor gave us the town theater. The Catholic nuns gave us truckloads of books to give away. And it was just an amazing collaboration for 3 summers with kids all the way up into 8th grade or so, having this music and art and dance time. And they often fall way behind in the summer in rural South Carolina and in the rural South. But these kids, they got way ahead. Our 3, 4, and 5-year-olds were testing at 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade levels. Wow. Just after 7 weeks of this. It's a no-brainer for anybody with half a brain because we're teaching the way God designed this amazing brain. And we were not built to sit. For most of human history, if you sat, you'd get eaten, right? Yeah. And we were not meant to learn alone. Mm-hmm. For most of human history, you had to have your homies around you, protection, right? Mm-hmm. We were not meant to learn by reading. The reading only showed up with the Sumerians and the Chinese, and only the rich people could read for a long time. And until Gutenberg showed up, only the educated and the rich and the clergy and the nobles could even afford a book, right? Mm-hmm. So our human brains have been reading signs. If you saw a footprint of a deer in the snow, that meant food. If you saw footprints of a panther in the snow, that meant I'm food if I don't get out of here. If you saw footprints of a panther following a deer, that meant leftovers, if I'm lucky, right? So we've been reading. And this goes into semiotics, which is where my doctorate is. It's all about symbols and signs and meaning. We've been reading signs. Red sky at morning, sailors take warning. Red sky at night, sailors delight. We've been reading symbols for a long, long time and translating them to meaning. But now we have these letters that have symbols that represent sounds. And in some languages, each letter only makes one sound. For instance, in the Cyrillic language, a C only makes one sound. But in English, it can sound like a California cauliflower, Coca-Cola, or it can sound like a cinnamon symbol, central scent, right? Well, there is a rule that can hack these crazy things that we don't understand. And we are right now developing 36 cartoons with 36 hacks of the English language built into song and dance. It's called the Tower of Language. If you go to richlearning.com and look for the City of Six Towers, you can see what we're building in the Tower of Language. Did your helper pull up that Rich Learning site yet?
I think they're working on it. Yeah.
Okay. I want to show a 1-minute cartoon right on the front page of Rich Learning. Yep. Go ahead and expand the screen so they see the whole screen and turn the sound on. Oh, listen to the sound.
I can hear it.
So there's going to be 36 games, songs, dances in the Tower of Language. You get to make yourself into a cartoon character. There's Stan doing the sign language. You build yourself an avatar for this holodeck. And you're going to sing, and you're going to dance, and you're going to play games, and you're going to learn, and you're going to get rewarded with your gemstones. And you can use those gemstones to buy a virtual spaceship or a virtual dog or build a virtual farm out on an asteroid. And this is our first Metaverse 3D AI, AR, VR, help me Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope, haptic holographic universe that we are going to have a membership model for kids who can't afford it. It'll be like you pay for piano lessons once a month, even if your kid doesn't do it. And the goal will be through a nonprofit, we will give it away to kids who can't afford it.
Amazing.
All of it. Every lesson will be built on a song, a dance, a comedy. Like you're flying into the magic school bus, or you're flying into the holodeck in Star Wars, or you're flying onto Sesame Street into this space station. And the goofy cartoons will be your virtual tutors who will recognize your voice, recognize your face, and award you points if you're actually singing and dancing. Because we know if you're moving your body, you're getting that oxygen, the glucose, and the brain fertilizer. And if you're connecting the brain to the body, to the environment with overlap, precision, emotion, repetition, attention, you're going to learn faster and remember longer than you would just sitting in a classroom.
For sure. I love that demonstration. I'm glad we played that. So I think that's a good way to end this segment. What I'd like to do is maybe consider dehydration and then come back in a little bit.
All right.
So
All right.
We'll talk to you in a second.